Former prisoners of Reddit, what is something that no one seems to know about prison life? I did do an internship in college for the National Center for Trauma-Informed Care, going to prisons around the country to eliminate seclusion and restraint. In a lot of prisons, they tie people down or put them in solitary confinement as a way to control the prisoners. This is a huge issue because many prisoners have had previous traumatic experiences in their lives, and doing this to them is basically re-traumatizing them. What we did is to teach the prison guards and administrators to eliminate seclusion and restraint by identifying the triggers for each prisoner and avoiding them. Some examples include eliminating level systems, where you have to behave well to get rewards that would help you behave well. A typical example, if you're good, you can go outside. Believe it or not, it's easier to help people be good if you let them go outside to decompress. The people who don't behave well are the ones who need to go outside the most. Treating the prisoners more humanely. One example is a women's prison we went to, where they'd have takedowns every morning. A takedown is when they tackle someone because they are too dangerous to control, getting into fights. When we asked to see the place of the takedowns, we found out the women were being tackled during shower time in the mornings. We went to see the showers and saw that they all had to shower completely naked in front of both male and female guards. When we asked why, we were told someone had committed suicide 15 years ago with a shower curtain plus rod, and all the shower curtains were removed. After our training, the staff came up with the idea to implement Velcro curtains. The women would get their privacy, and no one could commit suicide. The instance of takedowns completely disappeared. Another example was in a forensic hospital, mostly people who are deemed not guilty by reason of insanity, where there was a man who had dementia and kept getting out of his chair. He would fall, and there wasn't enough staff to keep an eye on him, so they tied him to the chair. After our training, a staff member came up with the idea to buy him a baby doll. The man believed it was a real baby and didn't want to drop the baby when he wanted to get up, so he would call a staff member over to take the baby from him, and the staff member could then assist him when he would get up. I remember one children's juvenile facility where they eventually got rid of seclusion and restraint. The children had the idea to turn the benches they were tied onto into healing benches that were placed around the facility. It was so beautiful. Many of these places turned their seclusion/restraint rooms into sensory rooms so that people could decompress with music or other things when they felt stressed. A major component of all this is that many inmates who have been traumatized have PTSD. They don't go 0 to 50 miles per hour. They're idling at 40 miles per hour already. It's all about identifying the triggers to prevent them from becoming upset. 50% of prison staff also have had their own trauma, so it's important for staff to communicate about their triggers to help each other out. Lastly, we would set up programs for lifers, people in prison for life, to mentor the other inmates who would be leaving the prison. Sometimes they would produce gardens together to see life being creating and take care of it. Giving people a sense of purpose, even when they are in prison for life, can actually help things quite a bit. I don't know about these days, but back when I was in prison, it was dull. We watched TV, chat, eat, sleep, play cards. Too much time on our hands. Even the guards would join us for card games or to watch TV with us. I spent a short amount of time in a young offenders institution, UK, when I was 20. Nobody told me everyone showers with their boxer shorts on. Day 1 I walk into the showers naked and was faced with 10 very confused young men wondering why the new guy had his pecker out. Served 30 months in Florida at age 18. Food was terrible. Boredom is mind-numbing. The feeling that the world is leaving you behind is quite painful. Perhaps the worst of it though is the stigma associated with being a convicted felon. I have been turned down twice for jobs in the last month I'm capable of excelling at specifically because felony convictions. Former Space Coast area machinist now living in oil country Louisiana. Problem is, I'm totally honest with them, and the convictions are 25 years old. If you look at the guards as your butler, it makes life more enjoyable in there. Call them Jeeves. I mean, they get your mail, bring you your meals. Also, the tabletop RPG games can be very good. You miss things that you don't think about on a day-to-day basis. Things that you take for granted. 27 months in military and us federal prisons, and the two things I looked forward to the most was turning a light switch on and off, and walking barefoot on carpet. I was a prison guard, and I was always surprised by the level of power and wealth in prison. Outside, an important powerful man has lots of money, expensive drugs and women. While there are drugs in prison, there are. So a powerful wealthy inmate has an abundance of little Debbie cakes, Twinkies and porno mags. Some things folks don't seem to know about prison. The difference between an inmate and a guard is usually that the former has already been caught. You can cook an amazing number of things in a 1970 era Hamilton Beach butter up electric popcorn popper. Everyone, staff and inmate, in a prison has control issues. They have to control others, or they are unable to control themselves, but everyone has control issues. Women who work inside a prison facility can be split into two groupings, those happily married, and those that have serious issues dealing with men. There is not much overlap between the groupings. It is surprisingly easy to grow marijuana on a prison dairy farm and even easier to get it through the gate of a medium/minimum security prison. Like on the streets, everyone has, or has near immediate access to, a weapon, usually a knife, and almost no one uses one without strong provocation. Note, strong is a relative word. There are other things that could go on the list, but there is one that people really don't seem to know that is important enough to warrant a standalone statement. The overwhelming majority of people in prison are coming out and will need some acceptance and help if they are not to return to prison. Source: sentenced to 32 years, served 6 years in maximum security, followed by 3 years in medium/minimum security, followed by 5 years supervised parole. I have been crime free and out of prison for 32 years since release. I learned that men are dirty as fuck, and that even the most unacceptable things on the outside are pursued and even flaunted on the inside. Just for an example, and trust me, there are thousands of variants of this example. Imagine the 5 hardest, meaning looking white guys you can think of, with tattoos all over their heads, necks, and bodies. Some of whom, you know for a fact, have killed a couple guys while being locked up there. They walk around with power, respect, they run the Pecker Woods, and are very intimidating. Then imagine a 6th man, a normal white guy. This said normal white guy is giving oral and anal sex to all the 5 badass white dudes. And they flaunt it. In fact, I know for sure that even the 5 dudes returned the favor with their own mouths and booty holes to the same dude. No shame whatsoever. And also imagine drugs. Like you've surely read in this thread so far, a lot of the shitty part of being locked up is the boredom. Because of this, many dope fiends return to their trade, and many more try drugs and become fiends during their stint, out of boredom and the thrill it gives them. So check it out. I remember a while ago this dude I knew came back from a work detail, chain gang type shit. I live in Arizona. This dude found a still backed up, supposedly unused syringe out in the desert while picking up trash and shit, and managed to put it in his prison wallet asshole and smuggle it back in. If you're familiar with prison life, then you are aware of the huge economy that goes in there, revolving around money and food/candies/toiletries for trade. They are treated as cash money. So this dude cracks up a huge smile and tells me I'm gonna charge $1 per use to anyone in here that wants to use this. I shit you not, he had on a slow day 5 people hit him up. On a typical day, 10 to 15 people. And quite a few days so many dirty motherfuckers were hitting him up for that needle that he had to keep a backlog list, so the people fairly got the rig when they should, because they asked before this guy, etc. I seen 3 dudes, 1 white, 1 black, 1 Mexican, supposed rivals, cram their fat asses into a toilet stall purposely built to only house 1 man, for this exact reason, and fucking shoot up. Yeah, I'm talking one guy shoves that in his arm, shoots up, and without cleaning it or anything, the other guy grabs it like it's nothing, shoots up right away, etc. This went on for a long time. Hundreds of dudes using the same needle, not ever sterilized, and simply just no one gave a fuck. I also seen a dude in the same kind of bathroom stalls. I noticed him one day after his legs were sticking out of the doors. He was a big guy, 6'3" at least, overweight, etc. For hours. Finally a guard walks by, and they put everyone on lockdown right away. I guess he had managed to hang himself with some string material he fabricated and made very strong. Poor dude just lay there, dead as fuck, 4 hours, and no one did a thing, said a thing, and I doubt anyone cared. It's a fucked up world out there. Raise your kids right. Female ex-prisoner here. How freaking sad and isolating it is. One of my cellmates was told her husband died a few weeks before I paroled. She was in for a probation violation. She didn't really have anyone but her husband, and when they asked her if she wanted to make any phone calls, she broke down. There was no one left. I remember us all sitting with her trying to be there for her. It was so sudden and so tragic. I found out I was pregnant while in prison and later gave birth there as well. All family was over 12 hours away. I had family that was allowed to be present during labor, but that just wasn't an option because of the distance. I spent 2 days with my daughter and then received a picture once I went back to prison. No posting on Facebook, no phone calls, nothing pretty much. Very lonely. It's been 5 years since the day I was arrested and then later incarcerated. I have a beautiful family. My daughter has been with me since I got out, and I'm currently an engineering student. Life is so fulfilling. There are not many days I reflect upon this time, but I figured I would throw my 2 cents in. 99% of inmates are incredibly friendly to each other. There is a little bit of us, prisoners, vs them, custodial staff. Other staff were mostly okay mentality. Your first night in, someone will make sure you are fed and make sure you have everything you need until you can get your first canteen. The free soap you are given sucks and dries your skin. The most basic thing anyone can give you is a bar of real soap and a razor, but it's the most appreciated. The thing is, the prison discourages this behavior. You are not supposed to possess anything you didn't pay for. They will tell you all gifts come with strings attached, which of course is rarely true. The only string is you pay it forward when you're settled in. I once got in trouble for lending someone my radio, even though I had 2 of them. They create all these rules and lies to try and get the inmates to feel isolated against each other, but it only reinforces the bind between them, because the only thing you all have in common is the man is trying to put you down. It's a lot like high school. If you were forced into the high school by armed men in uniforms, told you couldn't leave until X time has passed, and they shut the door behind you. Think of all the awful people you knew in high school. Assholes, jocks, douches, dickheads, thugs, etc. They're all there, but grown up and locked in with you. The same cliques, the same maturity levels, but everyone's an adult and locked in a building with you. The noise. Everything is concrete and steel, so everything echoes. And every black dude is the next big rapper or R&B hitmaker, and they practice at the top of their lungs with 10 hype men. Dominoes being slammed on metal tables almost constantly is enough to send even the sanest person insane. The noise is brutal. The smell of farts, ramen noodles, instant coffee and cocoa butter all the time. Shouldn't touch any handrail because it probably has semen on it, and I think staff was born in prison because everyone has it. Way more just can't think of it. Also, half the guards that worked there probably belonged in there.